All right, here for another First Impressions, the great unboxing series for ad tech, right? Like ad tech needed an unboxing video, but we have one. We have one.
As you mentioned, it's like a combination of adjuster products that have been marketed for like a decade now, and combining that with some of the stuff we were building in-house at DV, some of the stuff from my original company called Zentric that was acquired by DV as well. Overarching vision of why is it a suite? Like, why is it a collection of these things? Is that when we were talking to publishers, so the kind of three key patterns that kept emerging were this idea that people were wasting a lot of time in manual workflows, grabbing everything they could get, trying to bring it all together and get a perspective of what's going on, which is really what Adjuster's core value proposition was, like connect to hundreds of systems, pull the data, aggregate it, normalize it, present it. And then the second piece, once people got that in place, is the transparency piece, like where this is especially directed to us as verification companies. We're getting scored by a black box system. We don't understand how you're coming up with this stuff. We want to understand. You need to show us what's under the hood, right? And that will then help us with stage 3, which is drive yield, like which is the eventual desired outcome of all of this, is that I know which levers to pull and what to change and how to optimize stuff to make more revenue at the end of the day. Each of these in silos is only as powerful as the limited data set that it has.
Right.
If you can't connect the yields to the very first like data aggregation piece, you're just working off of like a small, narrow perspective. And if you don't have the underlying data of how the verification part works under the hood, how are you like pacing correctly against third-party metrics? How are you like targeting exactly to what the buyers are asking you to deliver the add-on? And how are you driving optimization if you don't have that perspective? This is your landing page view. This is kind of where you get started. And this is also the collection of the tools that I was just talking about, right? The first two here on the left, Unified Analytics, Campaign Delivery, these were the original Adjuster products, what they call Programmatic IQ was Unified Analytics, and then Flow IQ is Campaign Delivery. And they solve that first category of issues, which is data aggregation, normalization, reporting, getting that full lay of the land of what's going on. And then we have inventory quality, demand quality, which are the pieces about the transparency. What can we tell you about every possible verification perspective that kind of happened within that, all of your inventory across the site? And that's really extending your first party data set with all the key verification KPIs like viewability, brand suitability, invalid traffic monitoring, and kind of taking a step further from just telling you, hey, this is your viewable impression count, to digging down into the diagnostics of it. Like, if we said something wasn't viewable, why did we say that? Was it because the tab was never in view? Was it for some other reason? Like, tell me the root cause of this thing.
Right.
So we'll dive deeper into that as well, give you a quick perspective of that. And then the kind of one of the outcomes of kind of aggregating all this data that we can give you in the industry benchmarks as well. Like, can we show you how the core KPIs compare to other publishers in the same space, in a certain kind of vertical, or sports publishers, for example, and allow you to benchmark longer term, like how the trends in the industry are evolving, how you stack up against that. And we think that's a really good tool to expand from just like what the traditional revenue benchmarks are to, for example, like how does that compare viewability rates? How does that compare on fraud rates? How does that compare on a number of different KPIs that a buyer may care about, so that if your direct sales team goes out, they can kind of focus on like, what are the 2 or 3 KPIs that my inventory really excels at, where I can make the best possible pitch and kind of move the conversation away, like, hey, I'm cheaper than everyone else. No, I have better inventory than everyone else. Like, it's more brand suitable, it's safer, it's higher viewability. And that's why I'm charging you more than all the rest. Like, make the case for more revenue, not less, you know? Let's dive in. So basically the core concept here is, you have a bunch of filters at the top. All of this is backed by impression level data. So no aggregation is happening here so far. I can drill down into every single impression that happens at any given time frame. So basically, my default picture is I get the core KPIs, like how many ads we monitor, how many of those we call valid viewable, which means fraud-free and meeting IAB viewability standards. And then we kind of drill down deeper, like how does that distribute across different devices, like certain device types driving kind of the majority of that traffic. When we say valid and viewable, how much was that due to viewability concerns or invalid traffic concerns? How did those factor into that? And then we break that down into the kind of core constituent reasons why something may either be flagged as fraud or be flagged as non-viewable. So what we wanted to do as a starting point is to at least give you a perspective as to how we classified each individual page, and then allow you to kind of see how much inventory you had in each of the different categories that people may or may not want to get. And that allows you to then run some simulation, like how much inventory do I have available in certain categories? And we're so confident in the data that we're giving it to you at the URL level. So you can actually see for each and every article how we classified it. Basically, this is just an overview of all your inventory and then how many impressions we saw on each individual kind of classification category.
Okay.
And now I can drill down and say like, well, disaster natural, let's dive deeper into what that is, right? Like, what did you classify as disaster natural? And then you get a list of all the URLs on your site that we classified this way and how many impressions those contributed to your overall inventory. And then just the last part is basically breaking down best, worst performing by like several breakdown dimensions. So do I have specific creative sizes that have the highest viewability rate versus the lowest viewability rate? Are there certain sites, like if I have a collection of sites, which ones are best and worst performing? To the point that we even allow you to do that for custom macros that you feed in yourself. So these filters on the top, they're not just the ones that we've defined as standard fields. Some of these, like for example, infinite scroll, something that is custom configured for this account. And for every impression, you just feed us a macro with that data point. We'll tag all the impressions just the way you want them. And then you can drill down into specific subsegments. So people can use that. For example, let's say I'm running an A/B test. I could feed in a custom macro saying this is A, this is B, and I can actually compare all the verification metrics for my A. Like, let's say I move an ad unit somewhere higher on the page. The theories that will increase viewability, I can validate that that theory is true or false by feeding the A/B test into this as a custom macro. Well, so I just want to say, like, campaign is basically just pretty much the same thing. It only shows you an additive to this is time view. So the same insights, but then mapped out over time, so you can kind of see how that evolved, as well as we have some more detailed performance. Like, you can actually drill down into each individual thing and get like a full overview of all the metrics. What most people will do is like export this to, like, you can export anything on these dashboards to your own offline processing if that's what you want. Quality targeting is a really cool thing because it tries, that's the difference between the insights part here and then the automation part at the bottom. The automation part tries to have a direct impact on yield, right? Like, not just show you the goods and give you the data and do your own analysis, but have an incremental improvement. And the quality targeting piece is about, we can basically create a script tag for you that you dump in your header of your page, and it will get all of these data signals upfront in real time for every page view. Like, do we consider this invalid traffic? What do we predict the viewability is going to be like? How are we classifying this one impression at this very instant? In the same way that a buyer would get it from us on the programmatic side if they were evaluating that same impression. And in quality targeting, automatically connects to GAM and feeds it in as key values, so that for every single line item, every single campaign you're managing, you can target it to, like, away from invalid traffic towards certain brand suitability categories, hitting at least a certain viewability threshold, giving you the same targeting powers that we're giving the buy side in their DSPs, but now for all your direct inventory, your direct campaigns. Yeah, so video delivery is stemming from some of our original video expertise, where we're going to be tagging your video to measure viewability, brand safety, brand suitability, invalid traffic. We want to tag your video ads anyway to do that. As we do that, we can apply server-side acceleration to video delivery, meaning that the server will take over some of the work from the client, what the video player would normally have to do, and do it on really fast data center connections, speed the whole process up, and deliver the ad faster to the client, which avoids timeouts and a bunch of errors on the client. We're seeing between, I would say, 5 to 30% improvements in their impression volumes by applying this acceleration technology. As we're doing the acceleration, we also collect a ton of data about the whole demand chain sitting behind your inventory. So as we're going through this acceleration process, we can actually see, oh, this is hitting SpotX. And then after SpotX, these guys came, and then these guys came. And then this is the original ad server where the ad is being served from. And how much errors are each of these parties introducing? Who's responsible? How much latency are they adding to your pages? So getting full visibility into the dozen parties involved in every single ad delivery and how much they contributed to errors and latency. As I mentioned, industry benchmarks is this idea that I want to be able to compare my performance against my competitive set. How well am I doing right? And so right now what this shows you is like we have CPM data, discrepancy data. So because we do the first to third party mapping, we can actually like, are your discrepancies worse or better than anyone else in the industry? Click-through rates, revenue growth, so kind of benchmarking. So, and this is based on the broad spectrum of like, I think over 100 publishers that we have in the system. Right? So we have quite a bit of data feeding into this. Obviously it's all anonymized, so you can't drill down into an individual competitor, but you can say like, I want to see within the news industry, how did that evolve over time, right? And how did that my data compare to their data? Benchmarking is a big topic that we're investing in right now. Because as you can see, my whole story about showing viewability data, invalid traffic data, that is what we need to add to this interface. And that's kind of what we're working on as we speak. The idea behind unified analytics is its origin story is to deal with aggregating programmatic data. I have a dozen programmatic partners, grab all their data, normalize it so that all the columns are the same thing, and I can bring it all together so that I don't have to like do spreadsheet magic myself, and then report it to me in like easy to understand automated reports as well as dashboards I can click around in. So the key building blocks here are we have connections. So you can basically connect this thing to a whole bunch of systems, and we're continuously adding more based on customer requests and kind of prioritization. Or I can simply like dump an email report or some other kind of generic way of dumping the data into the system. One of the things that's coming out shortly is going to be metric joins as well. So where we cannot just say, hey, let's concatenate all of this programmatic data together, just add all the rows up in a normalized way, but also now for each of them, look up in another data set what all the metrics were for each of these campaigns and these individual creatives. So for example, the key use cases, viewability, invalid traffic, brand suitability. Like, look up all those values in our other data set, which you can also connect here. And then we'll bring it all together basically into one single big massive data warehouse where you can get anything you want. Yeah, and so then the goal is to give you like these dashboards where you can do breakdowns of like individual advertisers, how many impressions, what are the CPMs you're getting from them, how's that trending in terms of revenues, kind of getting the full picture across all of your programmatic data. And then basically we can slice and dice this any way you want. Flow IQ is the other part, which is campaign delivery. This then kind of drills that into, still on the benchmark tab here. So this is around delivering direct sold campaigns, right? This is where I, as an ad ops person, want to keep track of every advertiser, order, line item, and I want to see how each of them are pacing, how each of them are delivering against the third-party metrics that the advertiser is putting forward. Like even if it's Motor IS, you will kind of bake it in here. And I want to see like revenue at risk, like what am I not on track to deliver on time and on as promised. I want to see how the discrepancies stack up for each of these between my local ad server, third-party ad servers. And this is kind of an operational dashboard to see what's happening. And so that kind of brings us to the full picture again, right? So if we look at what are all the building blocks, like unified analytics, campaign delivery, the last two we looked at are aggregate data, normalize it, report it, understand what's going on. The quality side is build a first-party data set about across your whole inventory to identify diagnostics around verification KPIs. Industry benchmarks empowers your sales team and your internal teams to understand like how am I comparing to the industry competitive set. And then these automation tools are about fix that video inventory, recuperate a bunch of that revenue, quality targeting, like don't under deliver on a certain campaign. If this is what a buyer cares about, deliver them exactly that definition of a valid impression. Nothing more, nothing less, and that really reduces waste and like buffering and all that kind of stuff.
Tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
I think based on the demo here, I think you can already see some emerging patterns on stuff that we still consider like, hey, these are artifacts of the past that we want to fix on our side to just build a better product experience. And it's a lot driven by integration of the value of each of these individually. To give a few examples, like the distinction between programmatic and direct is an artificial distinction. It's inventory and you have multiple ways of selling it. And really you want these two to live together. There are different perspectives on the same data, I would argue. So bringing these two things closer together, and then being able to join generic data sets, like combine the revenue data with the viewability data, is going to, we believe, would be a really powerful value proposition for our customers, especially when you then bring it into benchmarks. Because with benchmarks, what we can do there is then we can, right now we're showing trends, right? And this is kind of the industry state of the art, is show me a graph over time of a certain KPI. But what we really want to get to is, to an earlier point you made, is show me the correlation between viewable impressions and revenue. Is higher viewable inventory actually getting valued higher in programmatic or not? And we've done some really cool analysis on this data where we see like super linear correlations. So where you hit, if you hit a certain minimum viewability threshold, competition for the impression heats up programmatically, and the CPMs are getting like triple or quadruple over below that same threshold. So there's some really cool insights that we can gain from like bringing those two perspectives together. I know we're already trying to expose as much as we can, like given all the technological limitations, just to hook everything up. But we want to take it to the next level in the near future with like one of the key questions, for example, blocking decisions, right? When advertisers block an impression, I want to know how often that happens, not only in direct, but also in programmatic. I want to know the reasons behind that. I want to, like, was it due to keyword blocking, which is a very specific use case, or was it due to some other reasons? What exactly did they not like, and how can I fix it? So getting that level of transparency is something that we're keen to provide in the near future. More advanced targeting signals. So just as we open that up, we can already give you viewability, brand suitability, and invalid traffic. There's contextual targeting. We have this thing called authentic brand suitability segments, which is the idea that just target to whatever Disney wants. I don't want to configure exactly what that is. We give you a single targeting ID.
Oh, interesting.
Target to it. You will target exactly to what that buyer wants. You don't need to worry about what it is.
If someone is interested in learning more, engaging with you, where should they go? Who should
there is pub.doubleverify.com and a big green request demo button that allows you to contact us.
Got it.
And if otherwise, you can send me an email. You can shoot me. You can let Rob know, and he'll connect you.
Rob at Beeler.Tech. I'll connect you to Peter, or pub.doubleverify.com. So Peter,
exactly.
Thank you with that.